Whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Thank you for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show. I am back. I really appreciate everybody that sent me private messages, tuned into the show. Kim McAllister knocked it out of the ballpark. She's absolutely amazing. She'll be sliding over from our Thompson show in just a moment. I do want to say thank you also to our exclusive founding sponsor, Steve Moskowitz, 888 Tax Deal, MoskowitzLLP.com. He is the guy to call if you have any tax problems, if you're wondering about ERC. They do accounting, they do HR. I mean, they are the people to call. Again, 888 Tax Deal, MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve will be joining us later on in the show as well. But yeah, so to catch everybody up, I am back at least for several days, today, Monday, and Tuesday, and then probably back in the hospital with my daughter. She is going to be having surgery, so any thoughts, prayers, you guys can, positive vibes you can send our way, is very much appreciated. We're not, obviously looking forward to the surgery, but given the options, given what she's dealing with right now while she waits for surgery, it is the absolute best option. So again, I'm going to keep you guys abreast. This is our show. We get personal here on the Nikki Medoro Show, and I just really appreciate all of this support. And so probably Wednesday and the rest of next week, I'll be gone. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, things go well, that I'll be right back in this seat right here. So until then, though, we have a great show coming up in a couple of minutes. Guess who's joining us? All of our Bay Area peeps are going to know this guy. Mark Curtis, political analyst. You remember him from KTVU. He is now a political analyst still. He is with Nexstar Media and GoLocalProv.com. So we'll be talking politics with him in just a moment. Also coming up on this show, we have a packed show. I booked so many guests, and I usually don't do that, but we have a lot of guests on the show on this Friday. We'll be speaking with Stanford law professor Richard Thompson Ford, because I was just getting more and more angry. All the videos and speeches that I was watching regarding the Missouri State House and that dress code for female lawmakers. And you guys know dress codes are kind of my pet peeve. And so I want to talk to Professor Thompson Ford. He actually wrote a book about the history of dress codes, because this was the question that kept popping into my mind as I saw these women and men debate what is professional attire. And Professor Thompson Ford actually wrote about suits, because it always seems to be suits are deemed professional. Want to talk about that. And can professional attire for men just be adopted by women with all the rules and restrictions, or is that unfair and, dare I say, sexist or misogynistic? We shall see. And then in the second part of the show, if you can believe it, MTV's Teen Mom. It started as 16 and Pregnant. I don't know. This was, as a kid who was a teen in the 90s, these were kind of the shows that I watched a lot. It started with 16 and Pregnant. It kind of turned to Teen Mom, and it's still on. I think it started in, 2009 it started. Well, they have a new season, and it's called Teen Mom Family Reunion. And there's a coach, as there always is, that counsels these moms and their daughters. And the coach, Coach B, is actually going to join us in the second half of this show. She'll tease the season, but the reason why I wanted to talk to her is just about these mother and daughter relationships. One, what we can learn, even if we're not, don't have the issues that we're going to see on this type of show, but what we can kind of take from a show like this and apply it to the relationships that we have kind of here in the real world. It's Friday. So we'll also talk with Tim Sika about the movies. That's towards the end of the show. It's also Friday. I want to do a Friday food segment that's perfect for the 49er Dallas Cowboys matchup that is happening on Sunday. But I do want to welcome the amazing Kim McAllister,
Hi,
who is
everybody.
knocking it out of the ballpark while I was gone.
I'm no Nikki Medoro, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad you're back. You've got your lipstick on, you're ready to rock and roll.
I was looking back because I was able to dip in a bit, from the hospital with my wonky Wi-Fi from the hospital. And I'm like, God, I need a filter or something, makeup.
How's Marley
showering.
doing? Is she glad to be home?
She's very glad to be home.
Okay.
It's a big deal. Hats off. And you guys, if you know anything about me, my mother was a Kaiser pediatric nurse for more than 40 years. I have to be like a home nurse right now. So my daughter, if anybody knows what a TPN line is, it's basically, that's where she gets all of her nutrition. She can't eat food. It's all liquid until after her surgery, which was one of the benefits of having the surgery, when she could start slowly eating food again. But I have to, and now my husband as well, we have to change the cap. Now, if you don't know what a TPN line is, and it's kind of freaky, it goes into a vein in your arm all the way up and into the vena cava near your heart, like right at the entrance of your heart. So the fear, of course, is getting it infected because it's going straight into your heart.
Yeah.
Can you talk about stress of having to do this at home without the benefit of a nurse with you? I just felt confident in the hospital, but last night we attached the food line. That went fine, and that's actually kind of easy because you don't open up the cap. Changed the cap this morning. My husband had to go to work early, so that was stressful for me to do by myself. Took way more time than it did in the hospital, but we did it. She went to school. We did her hair. She felt good. So, she's hungry. She wants food. But yeah, and I was saying before we brought you on, Kim, surgery is next Wednesday.
Yep.
So we're obviously keeping our fingers crossed, and I will use all the prayers and positive vibes that you guys can give me. But right now, there's a smile on her face, and she's back with her friends. So
that's so good.
I'm happy. I'm very, very
one
happy.
of the things that I wonder if you saw in the hospital is how hard those nurses work and how much they're dealing with. Imagine your mom doing that for 8 hours, 12 hours a day, depending on the shift.
Yeah.
And then coming home and doing all the mom stuff.
I know it's crazy. Yeah. So, but again, we're very excited that we're turning the page on Marley's Crohn's. She'll always have Crohn's, but hopefully the surgery will get her back to living more of a normal life and all those sorts of things. So yes, and my canine co-host is just relaxing over here. I see there's a lot of love for Nugget today. So, and again, thank you to everybody who's been reaching out. Yeah, Nugget was very happy. We FaceTimed a bit. He's all kissing the phone. I missed my son who wasn't able to go to the hospital because of COVID and restrictions like that. And so, yeah, it's been an intense week. I can't even believe. Remember, Kim? I was like, we're going to be there maybe a day or two. Turned into a whole week. It's a lot. So we're hoping that this is the last of it. I know. Okay, so I took down Matthew.
What?
The book oh my God, people. He's right here. He can never be too far from me. Where is he? Come here, handsome. There he is. It fell like right before I started the show. There he is, right back where he belongs. All right. Okay, so we have a great show coming up, and I'm excited.
So excited. I'm so excited. We have Mark Curtis today.
I know. He's waiting in the wings. I'm going to bring him on right now. Yeah. Look, she took my thunder, Mark Curtis. There he is. There's the face that so many of us in the Bay Area recognize. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the Nikki Medoro Show. We appreciate it.
I gotta close the drapes here.
Don't you just love how people are like looking at themselves on the screen and they're like, no, this isn't working for me. I need to do something about this.
Well, and he's a TV guy, so like the lighting to him is going to be
What I should do is pick up my laptop and point it out the window. It's snowing right now here in Charleston, West.
Oh, yeah, because you're in what, Rhode Island, Providence area, right? I'm assuming because you're on Go.
I am in Charleston, West Virginia.
Oh, you're in West Virginia. Jeez.
Yeah,
how's the weather out there? Snowing,
obviously. I went from the Bay Area to Providence.
Okay.
Yeah, it's snowing here, but I was in Providence for 5 years, and now I've been here in West Virginia almost 8 years.
Oh, wow. Well, we recognize your face, obviously that face and that voice for a long time. You've been giving political analysis, and so we want to pick your brain on politics of today. Sure. The first thing I need to ask you about, and I'm sorry if you guys have been discussing this, Kim, ad nauseum, I want your take on these Biden documents, because article after article that I'm reading, and I feel, this is just my opinion, I feel like I'm being pretty fair with the analysis of Biden and the documents. If there's something there, it should be investigated. But President Biden said yesterday during his visit to California, there's no there. Mark, what do you think about the reaction to these documents, of course, in comparison to how we've reacted to the classified top secret documents from former President Trump?
Yeah, I think the Biden documents neutralizes Trump's damage. This is the best Christmas present Donald Trump ever could have gotten, because look, the Justice Department is looking into both cases. I can't imagine a scenario where they would prosecute one case but not the other. It would look, especially if Trump is the one prosecuted and Biden's not, I think it would look very bad on the Justice Department. I think in public opinion, people look at this very much the same way. So if one gets scot-free and one gets punished, it's just going to be, it spells all kinds of bad karma for 2024. What I've been predicting writing in my column is they'll look into both cases and say, bad boy, don't do it again. But we're not prosecuting.
But doesn't the content of the documents matter, Mark? I mean, if there's a difference between certain documents. I mean, tons of things can be deemed classified, but also the content, and not only that, where the documents are. I mean, Trump could have them like in the magazine thing in his toilet at Mar-a-Lago for all we know. As far as I read with Biden, they were like in a locked closet somewhere. I mean,
and also they were returned the minute they were found.
Right.
Big difference. I heard the analogy today that it's like if you're at a grocery store counter and you aren't charged for something, that Biden would have turned around, paid for it, and said, thank you very much. Whereas Trump would have hit the door, ran for the parking lot, and then when caught, said, oh, those are mine anyway. Right? So, I mean, what about intent? What about the difference between the cases? Doesn't that make a difference? And wouldn't that be glaring in a court of law?
Look, there's a lot. There's this case that I can think of, and that's Sandy Berger, who was national security advisor under President. He went into the National Archives and took some documents and stuffed them down the front of his pants, and they caught him going out with them. And I forget how he was prosecuted for that. I forget what the outcome was. But that set a precedent. On the very first day of office, if you get elected to the House, the Senate, or the White House, they do an ethics brief very specifically. These are the things you can do. These are the things you cannot do. And one of the things they tell them in those briefings is if you have classified documents, they belong to the government, they belong to the National Archives, they go back when you're out of office, you can't keep them. And it's very clear about that. So I think both of these guys are certainly in violation of the spirit, perhaps the letter of the law on this. But whether they'll be punished, I don't think so. I just don't. I don't see it.
What if they find out that former President Trump still has documents and hasn't turned them over? I mean, like Kim mentioned, Biden's like, oh, here they are. I'm not really fighting anything. Have a special counsel. He's not really talking bad about it, not saying it's a witch hunt. If they find more, let's just say from this point forward, find more highly top secret, top classified documents, does that change your opinion about how the reaction will be in comparison to President Biden?
Yeah, I think obviously we don't know a lot. We don't know a lot about the contents of these documents other than the fact that they were simply documents. And so once we find out more about the content, if one of the documents, for example, has the nuclear secrets and another classified documents are about, a prisoner of war or something, that's two different things. The weight of those are going to be two different things. But again, it's like, well, it goes and holds up the grocery store at Safeway, and the other guy holds up the grocery store at Albertsons and an amount of cash. They're still guilty of armed robbery. Okay, right. So I think the Justice Department is in a real bind, because I thought they would really go after Trump after the Mar-a-Lago documents were found. I would say something advice to both presidents: if you have any more documents, voluntarily cough them up now and give them back, and that'll probably help lessen the blow if there is one.
Let's move on to another topic that I think President Biden in my opinion, probably doesn't want to talk too much about because I don't think it serves him at all. That's the situation at the border. Now, Ted Cruz accused Biden of supporting modern day slavery through his border policies. What is your take on President Biden's response to the ongoing, I mean, it's just every single year, call about a border crisis? He just went to Mexico, El Paso, Texas. Some say he took too long to respond to it. Do you think it serves the Biden administration, and do you think that they're responding to this call appropriately?
Well, Ted Cruz does his side of the equation and his cause no benefit by comparing this to slaves. That's just in politics, I always tell people, don't compare people to the Nazis. Don't compare this
Right.
issue to slavery. Those are things that were horrible things that happened a different generation ago, and that we now are dealing with a different set of circumstances and issues. I just think those things are radio try and bring into the discussion. They usually blow up in the person's face that says that. Look, you might, geez, Mark, you live in West Virginia. What do you care about the border crisis?
Right.
West Virginia overdose death rate in the nation. We are ground zero for the heroin epidemic in this nation. How much fentanyl is on our streets here because it's synthetic and it's fake heroin, and people are using it as a cheaper alternative, killing people every day here. What has gone on here? And J.D. Vance, who was just elected, wrote that book called Hillbilly Elegy about and his family lived at the opioid addiction problem here in Appalachia, West Virginia. It's the whole Appalachian region. It is god awful. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. It's awful out there on the streets with the heroin. So a lot of it's coming through. A lot of the fentanyl is coming through the southern border. A lot of other stuff is coming through the southern border. Right now on Joe Biden's watch, I don't think he's really done much of anything. But having said that, I don't think a whole host of administrations prior to him ever dealt seriously with the border. We haven't really done anything effective in terms of immigration reform since, I believe, 1989 in the first Bush 1 White House. It's a problem that there have been bipartisan bills supported, but here's the problem. Democrats view the immigration as an easy source of voter support. These people can get in and they can get the ability to vote, and they're going to vote Democrat. The Republicans in this country are more interested in the cheap labor force that these folks offer. So because of the competing interests, I think both parties are guilty of turning a blind eye towards immigration for now decades. Those two reasons I pointed out.
I mean, it also begs the question of what can really be done given the laws that we have. I mean, it is not illegal to seek asylum, even though, of course, President Biden's latest news, of course, is that you would need to seek asylum in a country you pass through, or, kind of negate your chances here. Does just being America with our American laws and kind of how this country was founded impede any real effort on trying to solve this without also inflaming, immigrant right groups and human rights groups about what can be done? Because, the United States arguably has a role in a lot of the reasons why people want to flee their countries. And until we fix the situation there, who can blame a lot of people from trying to escape?
I think one of the keys to all of this, first of all, I think they got to finally fix the dreamer thing once and for all and get young people who were brought here by no doing of their own. Most of the time they're months old or weeks old or years old. They got to fix that. And I think there's enough bipartisan support that they can get the dreamer citizenship. I think we really have to take a serious look at is a guest worker program, because we have a huge labor shortage right now. In fact, here in West Virginia, we have about 20,000 job openings in the be filled because they can't find enough people to A, apply for the jobs, B, pass a drug test, etc. Have a guest worker program, and somebody comes in and they get a viable job, and now they're paying taxes in the United States, they're paying taxes in California. You're training them, you're educating them, and there should be maybe where after 5 years of being a guest worker, you can apply to be a citizen. But I think there has to be some incentive. The applicant and also the people of this country have to gain some benefit from it as well.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing with the document situation. I just find myself looking at both cases and going, something's broken,
Mm.
right? So, you can look at the past all you want, but what we know right now and for the future is something's broken. So, if you have a problem with documents flying all over the place, fix the system.
Yes.
If you have a problem with immigration, like Mark was talking about, put something into place like a worker system. Let's do like take a step to fix the problem instead of just kicking it around,
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's not going to be an easy fix, but like Mark, like you said at the beginning, it actually serves people of the GOP and the Democrats to kind of embolden their base for this to kind of continue, similar to Roe v. Wade, for instance. I know the March for Life is happening today. Democrats can rally up their base by talking about the Republicans taking away the right to choose, and of course, vice versa with Republicans saying, these are just a bunch of baby killers, and it riles up their base. So it's do these lawmakers actually want to solve the problem, or does it just really work for them come election time?
Well, you can ask that question about a lot of issues, and I've covered every political election since 1978, and sometimes you get a little cynical of these things, and I think sometimes they look at their own self-interest, and I think immigration is a good example of that, where I say this is Democrats look at it this way to cull new voters, and that'll help them in states like California. Republicans look at it as like, well, this is a way to get cheap labor into our hospitality industry or agriculture industry. A lot of these folks both work in both of those sectors under the radar. And they're like, well, it's not hurting anybody. And they just kind of look the other way and say, we don't have any incentive to fix the problem. When you add something in, though, like fentanyl, and all of a sudden we have a wild card here where there's big enough drugs coming across, and that stuff is so powerful and at such low dosage could kill the average person, and it's all over on our streets. Now we got a problem. See, whereas 10 years ago you might not have had a congressman from Ohio or West Virginia or Kentucky care about immigration because it wasn't affecting their states. They're far from being border states. Well, now the byproduct of the illegal immigration bringing in drugs to this country adds a whole new dimension to the issue that we've not seen before.
I only have a couple more minutes with this segment, but I need to get your take on President Biden running in 2024. Do you, in your opinion, think he should be running? And I'll start with that one. And then of course, if you say no, who do you think should?
I have been writing in my column that neither of these guys is going to appear on the November ballot in 2024. Run for re-election again, but there was a poll taken by the Washington Examiner weeks ago, a fascinating story, showed people in both parties in this country do not want Donald Trump as the nominee, nor do they want Joe Biden for a second term. I've never seen a political race that had this much dissatisfaction. You got to be looking for their bench and looking to their future and say, who do we turn to next? Is it Kamala Harris? Is it a Mark Warner on the Democratic side? Is it a Nikki Haley? Is it a Mike Pence on the? I think there's so much fatigue with these these immediate and the past president, so much public guys that there just isn't the stomach out there to put them back in office.
Yeah, no.
And now you have both of them that are going to hound them until election day, and the economy's got to get a lot better to be reelected. You can't get. It's tough to get reelected when you have inflation that's 8-9%.
That's true.
That's still too high.
You mentioned the economy, and yesterday we hit the debt ceiling for the United States. And today Janet Yellen is saying there could be a global financial crisis if the United States doesn't do something about the debt limit. Why do we keep having to raise the debt limit? What can we do that we don't have this problem? Or is it just we're stuck with this and we're going to have to, raise the debt ceiling in perpetuity?
Yeah, I wrote about this in my column, which I submitted today. It'll be published on localproud.com. But I wrote that the debt ceiling is this recurring thing It's like the government shows me on your face. We step right up against the door, and everybody panics and they do something. And I think the sad thing, and there's been all my life, 60 plus years, and I think the sad thing about that is we're just heaping more debt on our kids and our grandchildren, and our generation that's in charge now is just, kicking the ball, punting.
Yeah, basically. Well, Mark Curtis, we want to definitely get you on more. You have a lot of fans in the chat room. Have Mark Curtis on more. So we'd love to have you come on regularly. I'm loving your takes. Of course, Mark Curtis, you know him from KTVU. He's big in the Bay Area, now a political analyst for Next Star Media and Go Local Prov. That's PROV.com.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark is just amazing. And thank you so much for coming on the show. We'd love to have you back.
You're very welcome. This was a lot of fun to come back regularly. As I think you both know, I used to do Brian Copeland's show all the time, and Ron Owens and all the Bay Area talk shows. So I'm game. Let me know.
Perfect. That is great to hear. Mark Curtis again.
Thanks,
thank you so much. We'll talk to you again next time. Yeah, he's awesome. And again, thank you to Kim McAllister for setting that up.
He is the nicest person, honestly. And he's an author. He's written political books. He's a great go-to when you're talking politics and looking for that. So I'm excited to see that he had a column. I didn't know. You said goprov.com?
Yeah, it's golocalprov.com, and he writes articles for that. And that's kind of it. That's why I was asking if he was from Providence, Rhode Island, because right. But no, he's not there at all.
He's in Virginia. A snowy Virginia.
You could not pay me. You could not pay me to live in the snow like that. I swear to God. I mean, I'm waking up this morning and just like freezing my butt off, and I look at the thermostat. It's like 68. I'm like, we're such wusses. I swear to God, we're such wusses. You don't even want to know what I wore just to take the kids to school this morning. But okay, so again, I want to remind you what we have coming up. After Kim's news, we're going to get into the dress code with the female lawmakers, because men can wear suits, that's fine, but apparently in the Missouri State House, they're having a huge problem with the dress code there. And so they've been debating it. They've been creating all these new rules about it. And I get aggravated. Kim, you know how I feel about dress codes, especially when we're talking about grown adult women. Not only that, but that have been elected to office. So obviously there was a big group of people that thought that this particular woman was qualified enough to run for office, and yet is apparently not qualified enough to decide what to wear at work. So I was thinking about this, and I'm going to play you some sound right after Kim's news of the debate between two lawmakers. And it just gets my blood boiling because, again, this is just an issue that bothers me to no end. So I kept asking myself, what is professional attire, right? Like, is it just dress like a man, wear a suit? Because that begs the question, are dress codes misogynistic? Does it have to be, a blazer? Can it just be something that covers the arms? And again, what is the point of a dress code, especially in a quote unquote professional environment? So I was doing some digging, and Richard Thompson Ford is a professor of law at Stanford Law School. He writes about law, social, cultural issues. He's written for the Chronicle, the San Francisco Chronicle, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and he's actually written a book. He's written many books, but he's written one book on dress codes and kind of the history of this fashion. And so I just want to pick his brain about dress codes, get his take on that, throw another story at him as well regarding dress codes and how people perceive others, especially when you talk about people of different races, not just different genders. So that's coming up after Kim's news. In the next hour, again, we'll talk about mothers and daughters. I don't know if you really watched MTV a lot, Kim. Did you ever watch that show, Teen Moms?
I wasn't really a big watcher of it, no.
No, okay. So, back in the 90s, or I guess it was 2009. I looked it up. 2009 is when 16 and Pregnant and all that came out. And I just watched a lot of MTV. I just did. And I would watch this show all the time. Well, Teen Mom is back with another season, but this is called Family Reunion. And it's bringing the moms of they're not teens anymore, but now 20-something teen moms together. And they're like on this retreat. And I just want to, and the coach that's there is Coach B, and she's going to be on the show. So
Okay.
we're going to have a conversation about not just the new season, but are there any similarities between these once teen moms, but young moms, and their moms? And then how those moms were raised, and what can we pull from that? And
Yeah.
do shows like this maybe glorify or glamorize being a teen mom? Because that was a huge debate when that came out. And of course, Tim Sika will join us at the end of the show to talk movies. I do have a Friday food segment that I'm going to order during Kim's news, so hopefully it will arrive during the show. So that's all coming up. Again, can you guys click that thumbs up button? It really, really helps support the show. YouTube loves it. I love it. It's great. Donate to our Patreon. There is an announcement for all of my Patreon subscribers. So go check it out. If you are a Patreon subscriber, there is the website to get the link, thenikkimedoroshow.com. The Patreon link is there. And there is a new announcement that I'm not announcing today, but I will announce next week. I'll announce on Monday for all of you non-Patreon subscribers. I figured that was up
master of the
there.
tease is
I
what you
am.
are.
Are you calling me a tease woman? Yes,
A
you
bit
would
of
be
it.
right.
I believe I
You would be
did.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's there for you guys if you want to check it out. Of course, the super chat is live. I will get to some thank yous. It's that $sign. I think there might be a heart next to it. If you want to donate live during the show, during all these amazing conversations. Again, Professor Thompson Ford will be joining us. We will be talking dress codes. But first, we need to take a look at some news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
I'm just so glad Nikki's back. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show, and this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Okay, to the news, because today is the day, or yesterday was the day, I should say, that the United States hit the debt ceiling, and U.S. Treasury Secretary now warning about the global impact if Congress doesn't raise it. Speaking with CNN during her trip to Africa, Janet Yellen said the U.S. failing to make payments could result in a global financial crisis. This comes as former President Trump warns Republicans to lay off cutting entitlement programs as part of negotiations to raise the debt ceiling. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise is celebrating the Supreme Court's decision last year to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Louisiana Republican addressing the crowd today at the March for Life rally in Washington, D.C. He urged voters in the crowd back pro-life candidates, push senators to support the Born Alive bill, recently passing the House. Camp Pendleton Marine is behind bars in connection with the January 6th insurrection. Matter of fact, 3 Marines being charged now and being involved with the riot at the house, but one from Camp Pendleton here in California, Corporal Micah Coomer, arrested by the FBI near the base in Oceanside this week after federal officials charged him and 2 other active duty Marines with disorderly conduct and entering restricted grounds. Agents were able to confirm Coomer's participation in the insurrection through posts and conversations over Instagram, where he apparently told another user everything in the United States is corrupt and he was waiting for a second civil war to begin. Military.com reports 2 other Marines were also arrested this week, including one in Fort Meade in Maryland, one at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. The 3 apparently all worked in intelligence units. So far, at least 12 service members have been charged with participating in the Capitol riot. The FTC is now requesting that the infamous Pharma Bro be held in contempt of court. The agency claims Martin Shkreli is in violation of his ban from working in the pharmaceutical industry. Shkreli announced the formation of a new company called Drug-like last year. The FTC says it appears he's involved in the drug industry again. Wait a minute, didn't we tell you not to do that? Yes, we did, and here you are again. Pharma Bro. In France, workers are striking over a plan to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. Here they are, taking to the streets. They are not happy. Teachers, railway, health, and oil workers all striking, forcing many services to shut down in France. The French president wants the retirement age in the country to be lifted to 64 in 2030, and they are not having that. A 1979, look at that, Pontiac Firebird Trans Am hitting the auction block next weekend in Arizona with just 37 miles on the odometer. That car was a barn find. It was discovered by Restore a Muscle Car team in Nebraska. The vehicle apparently a two-door hardtop in running condition. Most likely it's the lowest mileage example left. 37 miles on that bad boy. We'll see how much they fetch for that. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, Steve Moskowitz is the one to call. It's 888-TAX-DEAL. MoskowitzLLP.com is the website. And I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. All right, so I had to change the plan, Kim, with my Friday food segment. I apologize. Okay. So quick story, because we have Professor Richard Ford waiting in the wings. But I was going to do, so quick story. I picked up my son yesterday, who I hadn't seen from school, and his favorite fast food is what? Guess.
Taco Bell.
Yep. And so I'm like, do you want to go get Taco Bell and have a mom-son moment? And I'm in the drive-thru. And I look at the board, because we're doing the drive-thru, and there's wings on there.
What?
I was like, wings? I was not in the mood. You know what I got. I got a Mexican pizza. So I didn't think anything of it. I was like, I'm not getting wings. Then I open up my phone this morning, and they're doing this whole football game day promotion with the wings. So I was going to get the wings. Okay. And I'm very confused, because when I went on the app just now to order them, apparently it doesn't start until Monday.
Okay.
So makes no sense to me whatsoever. So I couldn't get them. So I am getting, and I'm not going to order it right now. I'm going to try to time it with Tim. So maybe we can eat. Okay. But I'm going to do that chicken parm sandwich that we were discussing before my big old hoopla with the hospital. So we're going to do that. I'm going to do that, but I'll do the wings thing maybe next time. So just try to tease that out. Okay. So we're not doing the wings today. I will give you a review of the wings later, because right now I do want to welcome someone to the show. Richard Thompson Ford is a professor of law at Stanford Law School. He writes about law, social, cultural issues, and race relations. Like I mentioned, he has written for the Chronicle, the Washington Times, the Washington Post, and the New York Times. He's been the author of New York Times notable books such as The Race Card, Rights Gone Wrong, How Law Corrupts the Struggle for Equality. And he also wrote the book Dress Codes, How the Laws of Fashion Made History. Professor Ford, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey.
Hi, thanks for having me on your show.
I'm
We'd
really
love
excited
to have the smart people on the show. This is awesome.
Exactly. Okay, so Professor Ford, I want to play for you right now. I'm going to share my screen. I want to talk, and I told you in my email when I initially reached out, the Missouri State House dress codes. It bothers me to no end, but I want to play a little bit of the debate that they were having about this. So of course I don't have it ready. 1 second. So here is just a little bit of the debate. And now again, this is between women who are doing it. Mm-hmm. And here we go.
You know what it feels like to have a bunch of men in this room looking at your top, trying to decide whether it's appropriate or not? Are we going to have Dana be checking our tags for whether it's a knit blend or a polyester blend or the silk count? I mean, this is ridiculous.
Lady, you're right. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely
so. Why are you doing it?
That we even have to talk about it on the House floor.
I agree. So why did you bring it up?
Why should we talk about something like this? It is absolutely ridiculous. You
brought this to the floor, lady. You tell me.
You would think that all you would have to do is say, dress professionally, and women could handle it. You would think elected officials could handle that.
You would think, but no, we're walking around here in sequins and velveteen, to the lady's point. So what is appropriate, and why do you get to decide?
We need to get over the sequence. That's ridiculous.
Oh man.
Okay, so that's just a taste. Mm-hmm. That's just a taste of this debate. I'm going to first just ask you your initial reaction to even this debate happening on the Missouri House floor.
Well, I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm not. These kind of debates are pretty commonplace. You know, it wasn't that long ago that there was a similar debate in the U.S. House of Representatives. And these kinds of debates over dress codes, and particularly for women, are, sadly quite widespread in our society even today.
So let's talk about what is professional attire. You heard that clip there. And it seems that the woman that's kind of promoting or started this whole debate is saying, you would think that all you would have to say is wear professional attire. But in your research and obviously your books, what is professional attire? And that question of who gets to decide is an important one.
It is. It certainly is. Well, professional attire is something that's a bit of a moving target, particularly for women. For men, professional attire has been pretty standardized for well over 100 years. So the standard business suit and tie, the dark, either black, gray, navy blue business suit, it has been a staple of professional men's attire for quite a long time. By contrast, women's attire historically had been defined really in opposition to masculine attire, and therefore, to some extent, in opposition to professionalism and all of the things that are signified by masculine attire. So when women have begun to enter professional workplaces in larger numbers, they really face a catch-22. On the one hand, masculine attire connotes professionalism, but on the other hand, that's also not traditionally appropriate attire for women. And so the women struggle with this question.
Yeah, because it seems that, at least from some of the articles I was reading about what was happening in Missouri, is cardigans weren't okay. Or obviously you heard the whole thing about sequins. Oh my God, if there was a flash of sequins, I don't know what the outfit was, but apparently there was sequins. What can you just take? And let's just kind of look throughout history. And you touched on it there a bit about how it changes for women. But can you just say professional suit and just say, just wear a suit, woman, and you'll be professional? It doesn't seem like it's that easy, because maybe women don't want to wear suits. And let's just throw in Hillary Rodham Clinton in a pantsuit, and she's not vilified for that.
Absolutely. I mean, the difficulty is that what counts as professional attire is different depending on context. It's different depending on the field that you're working in, and it's different depending on region. And then sometimes it's different just depending on the whim of whoever happens to be in charge of saying what's professional. Your example of Hillary Clinton is a really good one. A classic pantsuit. She got no end of flack about it. That certainly didn't happen to male candidates running for high office. Some workplaces expect women to wear skirts and nylons. That still exists, and it certainly was widespread not too long ago. Are high heels required? In some settings, they're expected. Then in other settings, that would be seen as, either overly fussy or maybe even too sexy. So this kind of back and forth between being feminine enough but not being sexy, and being professional enough but not looking butch or macho is a constant tension for women. And I mean, I have to say that I think one of the main purposes of these dress codes really is just to keep women off balance. It's to make sure that no matter what you wear, you might not be dressed appropriately.
And I think when just looking at that debate, it makes us, women in general, look ridiculous. Like, that's the time you have to take up on the floor talking about, bickering back and forth about what someone is wearing to vote in. I think it does us a disservice.
And also the fact that it's two women arguing about it, which that really chaps my hide, Professor, because it's you're creating, friction where there doesn't need to be any. If there was just kind of respect for the job, how do we get through this? Because at some point, I think the question is, who gets to decide what professional is in whatever environment? Is there an answer there?
Well, I think that in an environment like a legislature, it really should be left to the discretion of the individual. And if the individual legislator is wearing something that their constituents think is inappropriate, then they'll suffer for that at the ballot box. But it strikes me that we don't need these dress codes in that context. In other contexts, I think it's particularly problematic or that people, if they do feel the need for a dress code, should be very aware of the way these dress codes affect women in particular, that historically it's been a problem for women entering workplaces. I could tell you 1,000 stories about it. And that even today, dress code enforcement from the high school level up is directed almost exclusively at girls and women. And that these kinds of dress codes are often based on really outdated ideas, or ideas that were never appropriate, but are certainly, we should know better than these ideas now about women's bodies, about why, sexualizing women's bodies, or the idea that certain parts of women's bodies are inherently sexual rather than it just being, their bodies. And, men don't have to put up with this kind of thing.
Exactly. They just don't.
Should we I remember that old book, Dress for Success. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yes.
But it was based on, if you dress in this certain way, you will achieve more success in the workplace.
Dress for the job you want, not the job you
dress
have.
for the job you want.
Right.
You're kind of, manifesting your own destiny, as it were. And so is that maybe the way we should go? If you show up to work wearing a tank top and flip-flops, you're not going to maybe achieve the goals that you've set for yourself, because you're not going to be treated with the same type of respect. People aren't going to see you in the same way. Instead of having dress codes and, putting rules into place, let people figure it out. Either you go into work looking like a professional or you don't, and you're treated accordingly by people who either want to do business with you or not.
But I mean, you could throw in then someone like Mark Zuckerberg, even Steve Jobs, who decided to kind of wear a different type of uniform. Of course, the black turtleneck is one thing. A hoodie, which I want to get into a hoodie story with you in just a moment, Professor, is another. So do you have to hit a certain level of success by wearing what Kim was saying before you can be like, screw it. I'm successful enough. I don't need to be bound by these dress codes.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's right. And in an odd way, even the lack of a dress code can introduce a sort of informal dress code that's almost as severe. So, in the Silicon Valley, you're expected to exhibit a certain kind of dressed down look. If you show up, Peter Thiel, the venture capitalist, has said, never invest in a tech company where the CEO wears a suit. So, you have to wear a suit. Now you can't wear a suit. And I do think that this is another kind of way to exhibit status, just in a different form. And it also has its gendered and racial connotations, because, as you're starting to mention the hoodie, some people wear a hoodie and they look like they're a tech entrepreneur, and other people wear a hoodie and many people think of them as a criminal or a threat.
Exactly. And so that's the perfect transition to this next story. And I don't know if you know it, but a historically Black college professor sparked a debate over proper classroom attire. Now, this professor, at least the article that I was reading, hasn't been identified. So this was the last article I read. But a tweet on January 6th said the syllabus banned students from wearing hoodies, do-rags, bonnets, and 3 styles of shorts: booty, coochie cutter, and twerk.
Oh.
Now, some users on social media criticize this as anti-Black. The professor, just to add, is apparently Black. Okay. Others defended it as setting a standard. What is your take on that?
Well, these are, I write a bit about dress codes like this in my book. And, historically, particularly in historically Black colleges and universities, there's been a strong effort at kind of social uplift. And the idea is, you as an African American, as a member of a historically disadvantaged group, need every advantage you can get. You can't afford to have things like your clothing hold you back. And so we want to train you for your professional life. And honestly, I have a lot of sympathy for that ambition. So these are cases where, now at the same time, from the perspective of the students, it's oppressive. And it certainly does have racial overtones, because to some extent, these dress codes are designed to combat or refute racial stereotypes. And so there is a racial element there, and that makes it very uncomfortable. So I frankly find this a quite difficult issue. I understand where the administration or the professor in this case is coming from. And I believe that, they've got the best interest of their students at heart. But it does mean, once again, that, historically disadvantaged groups have another burden.
Yeah. I mean, do dress codes serve people as a whole? I mean, is there throughout history, and I know, let me mention your books again. You wrote Dress Codes, How the Laws of Fashion Made History. I mean, is there a benefit to having dress codes, having uniforms in school? Because I grew up, the first time I ever chose my own clothes, Professor, was when I went to college. I wore a uniform K through high school, right?
Yes.
And so it was, I remember being like, God, it was a hell of a lot easier when I could just wear a certain uniform. Is there also a sense of freedom in having kind of a dress code?
Sometimes I think there is. And, I'd say a few things about that. One is, I think dress codes of some kind are inevitable. I don't think it's plausible that we're going to move to a society in which people are never evaluated based on their self-presentation, and that includes what they're wearing. And in the absence of a formal dress code, again, you often get an informal one. You have to wear a t-shirt in Silicon Valley. And that can be worse in the sense that then you're being judged on whether you know what the informal dress code is. It's kind of a filtering process where you're filtering out the people who don't have the savoir-faire to know what's appropriate in the workplace now or in whatever setting. I think sometimes dress codes can create a sense of solidarity, and they can relieve people from the status consciousness that often might come with different modes of dress. So I don't think dress codes are always bad, but I do think that very often they're ill-considered. That in part because people want to say, well, I don't care what anyone wears, or why does it matter? Even the clip you showed in Missouri, well, why are we having this silly argument? But of course, both sides can say that. Yeah, why are we having this silly argument? But rather than thinking that it's silly or trivial, and then we don't consider what we're doing, just put on the suit, just put on, cover your shoulders, whatever. If we thought more carefully about it, we could begin to see that certain types of dress codes come with unfair and unequal burdens for some groups, or they're based on ideas that we really wouldn't be proud of if we had to articulate those ideas overtly, but instead we're kind of doing it subtly through dress codes.
Yeah. It's an excellent point, because I do feel like there is a message that is sent, and I've talked about, just raising a daughter and raising a son on how, you look at girls or look at boys and what they're wearing and what message are you sending, right? And on one hand, I want to empower my daughter that, it's not your fault if a boy is distracted by your shoulders, but at the same time, the distraction and the judgment is still happening. So what advice would you give to not only parents, but people out there regarding how they choose to dress?
That, and I have a 14-year-old daughter as well, and
you're in it then.
You want your child not to feel self-conscious about their body and not to internalize some of these misogynistic ideas about women's bodies. At the same time, they're living in the real world, and you want to make sure they're prepared for what's to come. So, I would give you the advice I would give is to try to strike that balance, to explain that, some people might say, without saying, that looks trampy.
Right.
It's not you, it's other people, but you're living in a world in which some people are idiots and, or some people are sexists and some people are racists, and you'll have to decide for yourself how to navigate that.
Yeah, that's a tough one though, especially when, I can already hear my daughter saying, some people, you mean you?
Oh, no.
But it's so interesting though, and it just happened to my 13-year-old daughter last year. At the moment in which these girls realize that they're being judged on what they wear, right? And then you see like they go from not caring to, I have to have this, I have to look this way, this is what the world expects of me. And in a way it's kind of heartbreaking, because they're realizing that they have to fit into some mold.
Yeah, there's a loss of innocence there, and it's really difficult to decide independent of these influences, they're either conforming or they're rebelling.
Yeah.
But both of those aren't their own decision; they're a reaction to what's happening in the world around them.
Yeah. And I also think we all have to check ourselves sometimes on how we judge other people for what they're
Yep.
wearing. Because,
Absolutely.
back to the hoodie thing and just walking down the street and just put somebody that looks different or is a different gender in those exact same clothes. And would the reaction be the same?
Yes.
Professor Ford, I have loved this conversation. I
You're
would love to
awesome.
have
You're
you
fine.
back on.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed it. Good luck with your 14-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
We're
We're on
there
the
with
same
you.
boat.
But I really appreciate you. Again, Stanford law professor Richard Thompson Ford. Check out his books. It is The Race Card, Rights Gone Wrong, How Law Corrupts the Struggle for Equality, and the one we've been mentioning, Dress Codes, How the Laws of Fashion Made History. Professor Ford, thank you so much for being on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. This was lots of fun.
That's
Yeah.
great. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Awesome.
I know. Such a smart guy, right? I mean,
I
that's just.
know.
But it gets, I have this thing about dress codes, and I remember
know you
reading an
do.
article with him, and so I was like, I'm gonna give him a call, and he was awesome for hopping on. So
He mentioned the whole tech dress code
yes,
phenomena. So my husband works in tech, and he's going for a job interview a couple years ago, right?
Mhm.
And he's got like cargo shorts and a t-shirt on, and I'm like,
well, the cargo shorts definitely have to go, David. I'm
"You're
sorry.
going for a job interview." He goes, "You don't understand." I go, "Well, can you at least put a collared shirt on? Like, can you
No.
try to gussy it up a little bit?" He's like, "If I wear a collared shirt, everyone knows I'm a faker, so I can't do it." Like, this is the dress code. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's
Well,
just so weird.
That's funny because that's what I loved about going into radio. Like
Yeah.
I've told this story, and my dad's like, the only reason you don't want to be in television is you don't want to get all dressed up every single
Right.
day, which is true. It doesn't go with my personality. But remember, at Station X,
Mhm.
anybody that showed up in a suit, we'd be like, oh, someone's going for a job interview, because that's not how you dress. I don't care if you're a news station, whatever. You don't dress in a suit every day at the radio station. No one's seeing
Right.
your ass. Like, no, if you're wearing a suit, you're going on a job interview or something, or court, I guess. But
You'd always
yeah.
have those people that would, get up early in the morning because we had the morning show, right? And
Mhm.
so they'd wear at 4 in the morning when they show up, they'd accidentally have one blue shoe and one black shoe on, and they're like, "Oh my god!" You're like, "Don't worry about it. It's radio. We're not worried about it."
Nobody
Yeah.
knows. It's absolutely okay.
Oh well.
All right. Okay. So coming up after Kim's news, we're gonna switch gears. Now I know reality TV is not everybody's cup of tea. Okay. Don't judge me though, because I watch too much crap television. I just do. I mean, I'm a 90s kid. Like I was a teenager in the 90s, right? Graduated high school in the 90s. Reality TV was just kind of, everyone wanted to be on the Real World, remember? And then there was this show that came out in 2009. It was called 16 and Pregnant. Do you remember the uproar if you were following it at the time? People were saying, oh my God, this glamorizes teen pregnancy. When actually, I think the statistics show it actually may have had a positive impact on teen pregnancy. Because I don't know if you ever watched an episode. It did not glamorize pregnancy at all. But anyways, it transitioned into something called Teen Moms, where they followed some of the moms that were on 16 and Pregnant as they were moms.
Mhm.
And I've watched a couple of those seasons when I was younger. Well, there's a new season out. And the coach is coaching not only these now young mothers who are often in their 20s, but their mothers. And they're on like kind of a retreat. And so I wanted to bring Coach B, Dr. Bryant, on the show, and not just to talk about the season, but what you can learn about relationships, not just between mothers and daughters, but the grandmothers and that mother and the daughters, and why it can lead to certain things like teen pregnancy. So Coach B will join us after Kim's news. Also, I'm going to start ordering my food. I got a Friday food segment coming up. Tim Sika, of course, it's Friday. So we have to talk about what to see in the movies and see if there's anything fun to watch there. I do want to give some shout outs, though, to our super chat. Thank you. Jim Slayton, go Niners. Absolutely. I am so excited. Now, you guys know I was in the hospital, but last Sunday, I was in the hospital with my daughter, and I had to watch that Niner game. It was amazing. Well, the second half was. The first half, I was a little bit worried. But I am very excited. This is a long-time rivalry between the Niners and the Cowboys. So, yes, Jim, Go Niners. And thank you so much for the $5 super chat donation. Harry, $20. I would have sent a fluffy bear to your daughter. I love you, Harry. That is so sweet. I should pull the picture. Maybe I'll show it to you. I'll pull it during Kim's news. My daughter has added to this squishmallow, I don't know, community that now lives on her bed. It is insane. And then she got a bunch of her friends, some of our friends have given her them. It was so sweet. It put such a smile on her face because she's having such a hard time health-wise. So it definitely is something she absolutely loves. So thank you, Harry, for the $20 donation. Dora with a $20 super sticker. Thank you, Dora. Absolutely love you. CR, $10. Let's read her comment. She said, women had to wear suits in the 70s and 80s to compete with men. It's 2023 and no man should be telling how women should dress for work. Next, they'll say our ankles must be covered. Burkas anywhere? I'm with you, CR. Thank you for the $10 donation. And then Andreas, who we adore, has been a huge supporter of the show. Andreas, $20 in the super chat. Thank you guys so much.
Andreas is going through some trouble as well. His mom was in the hospital.
That's right. You told me.
And he was spending the night on a hospital cot like you were as well.
God.
So our thoughts go to Andreas and his mom, and we hope things are getting better in that situation, my friend.
Yes, and he said he just donated another $50. Andreas, I love you. Let's
nice.
celebrate for your daughter and my mother. Yes, indeed. I hope things are improving for your mother, Andreas, because I know, honestly, when someone that you love is not feeling good and is in the hospital, it is so difficult. Thank you. Oh my God, and another. Welcome back. This is important. I'm feeling your pain. I've been sleeping on the hospital for the last 3 days for my mother, with many prayers for Mark's show and much love. It all appears she might make it. That is the best news ever. I'm so happy. Please continue to keep us updated, and thank you again for the very generous donations to the show, because it helps us all so very much. Okay, so we again, to my Patreon subscribers, there's a bit of an announcement. Early something perhaps. So if you want to become part of the cool club, the Medorables, as I like to call y'all, the Nikki Medoro Show.com is where you can become a Patreon subscriber, and all my Patreon members, go check that out as well. I will be announcing it next week for everybody else. All right, so Kim's news, and then we're going to talk about teens, their moms, and pregnancies. But first,
now from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. There's a bipartisan group of senators, and they are visiting war-ravaged Ukraine. Republican Lindsey Graham of South Carolina is in Kyiv, along with Democrats Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut and Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, along with pledging continued support. All three praised the fighting spirit of the Ukrainian army. The FDA is getting involved now in turning down Eli Lilly's request for accelerated approval of an experimental Alzheimer's drug. In rejecting the request, the agency cited the limited number of patients involved in a 12-month test. The drug has shown significant promise in previous studies. There's a lot of scuttlebutt, though, about all of the potential downsides of this medication as well. A new study that shows that recent wildfires in the Sierra Nevada forests in California are the wrong kind. Researchers from UC Davis show rates of high-severity fires have skyrocketed since before the Euro-American settlement. The data shows locations considered mid to lower elevations saw low to moderate severity rate from 90% drop to about 60 to 70%. The high severity rate quintupled from below 10% to 43%. That's a lot of numbers. But an author of the study says the balance between good fire and bad fire, what they consider to be that, is way off. Prescribed burns, they say, would be an example of good fire, as they're used to treat forests rather than damage them. So looking at the kinds of fire, saying it's the wrong kind of fire going on in the Sierra. So that is no bueno. Wanted to say that the TSA is investigating a potential cybersecurity incident. Yes, a hacker claims to have accessed an older version of the agency's no-fly list. Ohio-based regional airline Commute Air said it took its server offline after being alerted by security researchers. That's not good to the that's not a one of a good security breach at all. If any security breach is good, but it's not that one. A Graceland, of course, preparing to host a public memorial service for Lisa Marie Presley. It will be held on Sunday morning. Presley will be buried at the site's meditation garden right near her dad, Elvis, and her son and Elvis's parents. She, of course, died last week at the age of 54. Slow drivers may soon face steeper fines in South Carolina. What's commonly referred to as the slowpoke bill allows police to fine slow drivers in the left lane $25. A new version of the bill increases the fine to $100, and it will go into effect if it passes the state's House and Senate, and the governor signs it. The Dallas Cowboys defensive star Micah Parsons ready for Sunday's divisional playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers. Speaking with reporters, Parsons said he wants the best of the best. He's specifically looking at 49ers left tackle Trent Williams, widely considered the best left tackle in football. Parsons said Williams is one of the best, and he wants Williams' best game. Niners and the Cowboys, of course, faced off in the playoffs last year. It ended with San Francisco on top 23-17. We'll see how it goes this time. This
Niners, baby.
Sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz for more than 30 years. Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals, for businesses. It doesn't matter. He's got your back. Call Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL and check out his website, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you for hour 2 of the Nikki Medoro Show. Thank you so much. Make sure you like and subscribe and share with all of your friends. Okay, so like I was teasing before Kim's news, I am a reality TV junkie. I watch all of it. I still watch it. Don't judge me. I don't care what you think. Now I watched 16 and Pregnant back in the day. And like I mentioned, it did transition over to Teen Mom. And it's a very interesting kind of reality TV show because it is really raw. If you watched any episodes, these young women that were teenagers when they became women or became mothers, and now they're young women, they're going through it. I mean, sometimes you can write it on a script, kind of what exactly is going to happen. I want to play you. They sent me a show teaser for the latest season of Teen Mom. It's called Teen Mom. Yeah, that's a bit intense.
A lot of anger going on there.
Well, let's welcome to the show someone that's part of the show, and I guess, just to put it mildly, trying to wrangle all of these people is, of course, the one and only Dr. Cheyenne Bryan. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on the show. You go by Coach B on the show, correct? Oh, hold on, you're muted. Hold on, let's unmute you. Can you unmute? I think
it's me.
There we go. There we go.
It's Coach B or Dr. B on the show. Hi, Kim. Hi, Nikki.
Hi.
To be here. There's a lot to talk about with. I call them my teen mamas, my babies, and my girls. So yeah.
Okay, so you're also a producer of this season of Teen Mom Family Reunion. Can you talk about that? Why you wanted to be so involved in this? Obviously, you're on the show. What do you think that it's providing, not just for the people on the show, but those of us that watch it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the very first season, I was a part of the development of the show, of season 1. And so for those who know or don't know, the TV world, development only takes place the very first season. And then once that's done, you are either just talent producer or cast or whatever you're doing. So I was a part of the development first season. Season 2, I'm on as producer. It doesn't mean I'm behind the camera, right? Directing or filming. I'm still on camera. I'm life coach, providing the healing and the tools and all of that stuff. But for me, the involvement with the show was more making sure, or should I say my intent was to make sure that not just the girls on TV are getting tools that can help them interrupt this dysfunctional pattern, create new norms, create a new narrative that's serving them, and get rid of what's not serving them, which is called reprogramming and reframing, but also so that every single viewer who watches this show can say, you know what, that's me, or I see myself in her. I can relate to that. That's been me. That's the little girl or the little boy in me who hasn't healed. And they can take the tools that I'm providing them on the show and they can start their healing process, because that's important to me. And so my idea was never to be able to just create this drama-filled piece of entertainment, but through TV and then just in life, you get drama. You don't have to be on TV as a reality cast member or star to get drama. You know, each of us on this show right now has some piece of drama we've already been in, we're entering, or we're coming out of. Unless we do a lot of work on ourselves, then we're able to have more of a peaceful type of space when you're in broken pieces.
Yeah. I want to give you a little more background on Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, a psychology expert, renowned life coach, president of the NAACP, founder of the Dr. Bryant Institute. You've written a book, Mental Detox. You do motivational speaking. Did you have your hands full, though? I mean, just from that tease of the show, it seems obviously big personalities, made for TV type of thing. But were there some similarities in what you were just talking about, kind of past childhood trauma, not just for the teen moms, but their moms, and how it kind of cycles down?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I was so excited for season 2 to bring on the grandmas, which they like me to call them glammas. So I was expecting that because, you know, the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree. The moms are the harvest of the seed planted into the root of their learned behavior. And do they mirror their mamas in more ways than one? Absolutely. It's learned behavior. They've learned how to be how they are. You learn dysfunction. You learn toxicity. That's not something that you're born with. And so we learn how to be, we learn how to show up, and we learn how to clothe ourselves. For some people, they clothe themselves in depression, even though they are not, because they've learned how to be depressed. Some folks clothe themselves in anxiety, even though they are not, because they learn through the optics of their environment and their parents, our guardians, how to be anxious and what anxiety looks like. And so for a lot of folks, they don't gain a sense of self, and they don't in their learned environment learn this is what joy and peace and happiness looks like. This is what resolve looks like. This is, you know, what being healthy looks like. And so we become what we learn. And what happens is, as we become adults, we bring the little kid to the relationship when the little kid should have stayed at the playground. And so what we do is we in turn bring our ball to these adult relationships. And when things don't go our way, we take our ball and we leave the playground and say, I don't want to play anymore. That's called sabotage. That's called neglect, abandonment. But we are then projecting onto our adult relationships what we learned to be. And until we unlearn those things, create a new norm, get in contact, which is called awareness of what are you doing that's not serving you, then you will stay in that same cycle and it becomes your norm. And so then you say, well, this is just who I am and how I am. No, it's not. You learn to be that way. And just like you learn to be that way, you can unlearn, reprogram, and become someone new that you are proud of, that brings you peace, that dissipates your internal struggle of, you know, this is what I'm used to being, but it doesn't feel good. So who am I trying to transition into? And if you don't know what the better looks like, then you stay where you are.
Yeah.
And the tools that I provide them on the show, a sense of self, and what does better look like, and how do we reprogram? What's the new narrative? Let's create that.
Can I ask you a question about teen pregnancy, because you've followed these families for a while, and I wonder if you talked about cycles. Do you see a cycle between mothers that have babies early and then their daughters that have babies early and then their daughters that, is there some type of pattern, and what's the psychology behind that, if so?
Oh, Kim. Welcome to my field. 100%.
Yeah.
It is a cycle. Now, whether it's, you know, nature or nurture, if you ask me my opinion and my theory on it, it's definitely a learned behavior. You learn what age appropriate things are from your environment. What is shown to you is going on is what you start to adapt to and acclimate to. And again, you put that coat of whatever armor is within your environment so deeply, subconsciously and psychologically that you never realize it until, again, you get with a professional, and I'm going to say this, who actually is effective. Because not every therapist and coach is effective. And I'm not knocking anyone. I'm just having to say it because I would be doing everyone a lack of service if I didn't. You can't just get with a therapist and say, oh, I'm talking. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. And so to answer your question, absolutely yes. I am a product of teenage parents. My mother was 16. My father was 17. And I, in return, ended up being a 16-year-old pregnant young teenage girl as well. My mother and grandmother were fighting for the rights of me to keep it. And my father, thank God, and I say this with all due respect to anyone who was a fatherless daughter, because I work with them all the time. My heart bleeds for them, and I invest everything I have in helping them heal that. But I'm so grateful that I wasn't a fatherless little girl. My dad said, not a chance, not on my watch. You may hate me today, but you will thank me tomorrow. And I was 16 when that happened. And my father, along with my parents, were the last faces I seen walking in to terminate the pregnancy, and the first faces I seen walking out. And I say that to say about maybe 12 years later, I called my dad and I said, hey, Daddy, thank you. He said, for what? I said, for being a father and making a choice for me, because I would have not wanted to have that for my life. Does that mean that the women and the girls on this show who did keep their child should have made a different decision? Absolutely not. It's not cookie cutter. And so when I say that to answer your question, that I repeat the exact same pattern as my mother, but I want y'all to hear what I'm saying about interrupting the dysfunctional pathology. When my mother was pregnant with me at 16, thank God she didn't abort me, right? Because I'm so happy I'm here, right? We sound like an oxymoron, but I'm so grateful that I had a parent that made a different decision for me, because it broke our intergenerational dysfunction. It broke that. And here I am, right of age. I'm, in a beautiful relationship that's healthy. I don't have any kids yet, and I plan to be married and have my kids, because those are my values. Doesn't mean anyone has to have those values. Those are just my values.
Right.
I want it. Right. And so, yes, Kim, it happens. And people do it over and over. I mean, they do it for generations.
Yeah.
Until that pattern's interrupted by someone who's bold enough, like my father, to say, not on my watch and no. And everybody hated him. They were just like, no way.
Well,
and he's saying it. I'm a young girl, and he's like taking this decision over my family. That was hard for him.
That's
and
huge.
Well, you've got a doctor in front of your name, you know?
Exactly.
And I think maybe you would have anyway, but it would have been harder for you. And so there's something about having babies before you're really in a good place to have them that keeps you in it holds you from getting your education.
Takes you down a different
keeps you
road.
in a place of poverty.
Yeah.
You're not able to reach your successful levels that you would have been if you are looking at being a mother in a different way.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, or it makes the road much, much bumpier. And Nikki, you said something. You said it changes your whole journey, your whole direction. One, everyone who's listening, please hear this loud and clear. One decision will change the entire trajectory of your life. Not two, one. And if folks would take their life that freaking serious with every decision that they make, we all, including myself, would have and would make entirely different decisions, or we wouldn't make a decision at that choice at all. It wouldn't even be a choice for us to decide on. If we understood the importance of decision making every day, we live on the results of what? Our decisions.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, Dr. Brian, Dr. B, Coach B, is on the new season of Teen Mom Family Reunion. Also on that teaser that we played, I saw that you were talking with, I would assume, one of the fathers of the younger children. And also there was a scene regarding possible alcohol abuse or alcoholism. Talk a little bit about, let's first start with the men that are, the partners or ex-partners of these teen moms. Do teen moms, young moms, seem to attract men that continue that cycle? And I'm thinking of a story of a good friend of mine back in years ago. I'm in a healthy relationship. I was in a healthy relationship at the time, and she wasn't. And she looked at me. She's like, "Isn't it boring?" As if the mistrust, the sneaking around, the cheating, that was just normal to her, so much so that just being in a relationship, going
Some
on dates,
people
sitting on the couch was
like
boring
drama,
to them. Yeah. I
right?
mean, is that what we see
Yeah.
over and over in these types of relationships?
Yeah, again, it goes back to your norm, right? What do you associate with boring? What do you associate with fun? What do you associate with being healthy? And so if all you have to associate with being healthy is we argue all the time, but we figure out how to make up. We argue all the time and then we don't talk for 4 or 5 days, which is very unhealthy. That's a form of abuse, by the way. It's called stonewalling. Then you will associate healthy relationships with the dysfunctional relationships that you've been exposed to because you don't know anything else to compare to. And so another thing is law of attraction: hurt people, and heal people. And so when two hurt, broken people get together, they're not getting together for what the optics of it looks like, to just project on to each other all this pain and just be mean to each other, for lack of a better word. They're really in a relationship to help each other heal and atone for, but don't have the necessary tools to do it. And so they end up in this rabbit hole of, hey, Nikki, I'm here and I'm beating up on you because I have to externalize what I'm internalizing for me to heal. And pain is not pretty, it's ugly. So my pain is rooted in abuse. So I'm going to abuse you and abuse you and abuse you, right? And you're going, wait a minute. And your pain is rooted in, stonewalling and possibly verbally abusing me. So now I'm on the attack from that. And so here we go, these two beautiful people, and all we want to do in our friendship is heal. And the only way we can heal was to externalize what we've internalized. And so now it's an attack, beat up party, and we don't know how to de-arm each other and help each other externalize in a healthy way without us becoming products of an even more dysfunctional, unhealthy relationship. So to answer your question, yes, like attracts likes. And I always say you attract who you are despite of who you think you are. So you want to know who you are? Look at what you're attracting. Look at your relationships. Look at the level of healthiness that's there. Look at how the people who you spend the most time with, the people you speak about the most, that is who you are, whether you want to believe it or not. You are them. I say it in my book, Mental Detox. If you spot it, you got it. You spot it, you got it, or you've had it, That's the only way you know it. Otherwise, it'd be foreign to you.
Yeah, it's very, very true. As far as alcohol abuse, drug abuse, are these common themes also within not just the girls and women that you're dealing with on the show, but just the people that you talk to? I mean, is this another indicator of continuing that cycle? I would say, obviously, yeah.
Totally. I mean, self-medicating is big, whether that's through sex or drugs, whether it's through abuse, whether it's through isolation. Those are all forms of self-medication. They're not always just substance. And people turn to, again, what they have learned, or through either optics or through trial and error, what soothes them when they are in pain and what can alleviate and dissipate that anxiety or that pain, that emotional threshold. Instead of regulating their emotions, which is healthy, right? They medicate their emotions, which inflames the emotions and it suppresses them. Suppression results in depression, and they're not able to process anything. And then through that process of suppressing, guess what? You start to learn how not to feel. And so one of the most dangerous folks to be around are folks who don't feel. Because if you think about sociopaths, their inability to have compassion and empathy and sympathy, which is a strong emotion, is what allows them also to be sociopath. What also allows them to create certain crimes at a level that their emotional feeling threshold does not have to be involved in, if that makes sense. And so I'm not saying everyone who has gotten out of contact with feelings and sense of self is a sociopath. What I am saying is it's very dangerous, because if I have no empathy, Kim or Nikki, I can project onto you anything, and there is no accountability or awareness tied to me feeling some sort of guilt for what I've done to you. And that is very scary to be with someone and that's also a narcissistic trait of folks who just can poke and pin and project and say, hey, oh, well, right. But they've learned how to cut off emotion, not regulate emotion. Regulate emotion means I feel everything I feel. And we're here to be fillers. Some people have a bad relationship with feelings, so they don't want to feel anymore. But when you get healthy, you gain a marvelous, magical relationship with feelings because it feels good and it feels peaceful, and you feel this balance. You feel this ambiance, right? Of this feel good. I call it the vortex. Abraham Hicks does too, the vortex. So guess what? You can't wait to feel when you're healthy. But when you're in nothing but pain and turmoil, who wants to sit in that? I mean, how do you regulate it, right? If you don't know how, and who wants to just sit and say, I'm dark and I'm dying all day long?
Nobody wants to do that. Dr. B, before I let you go, I know obviously this is a reality TV show. There's been some criticism over the years of, whether it's set up, whether it's glamorizing something, whether it's just, creating. What is your take on those sorts of reactions to shows like this?
Well, it's definitely real. We can't even make up half of these situations and the circumstance. And obviously you can't make up someone having a baby at 16, 15 on TV with it being their DNA. As far as glamorizing, it's not glamorizing. And I've heard that before. Teenagers becoming pregnant and becoming moms. What it's trying to show is the struggle that comes with making the decision, right? Or not even knowing that you're making the decision to become a teen mom, and how challenging it is, and how if one relationship doesn't work, you have to learn how to co-parent with this person while you are over here having a baby and making a family with this person. And then you have to learn how to blend them both. And you have to learn how to get a sense of self of who am I outside of being a mom, a TV personality, and then a co-parent who's trying to blend with all of this. And I never got a chance to figure out who I was, even at 16, 15, 14. And here I am trying to backtrack. But I have a child that I have to become a good role model for.
And
so you look at all of that, those moving parts and the weight of it. The idea is that you see it and you go, whoa, I want to make a different decision. And you see the work that these teen moms are doing for the teenagers who already have children and say, those are tools I can implement in my world to make better decisions. Those are tools I can implement in myself as being a good mama bear for my kids. And I don't have to take on the stereotype and the embarrassment of this title of being a teen mom. Life happens after that. You can be a business owner. You can become educated. At any point in time, you can decide to make a different decision, and you can be a powerhouse. There's women who are powerhouses who are at the level that I'm at, and they have kids. They are single mamas, and they are sitting at the table with me. They are speaking at events with me, and their voice is just as loud as mine. And they are just powerhouse mama bears who are killing it. And so it's more of looking at it from like, if I'm not a mom, let me see how I can do a different decision than these girls. If I am a mom, let me see how I can take what they're doing, because they're doing the work. And these teen moms are literally, we see the drama on TV, but these girls are evolving. They're really implementing the tools that we give them. And they come to me personally on camera and off camera and go, Coach B, do you see my change? Do you see the awareness I have? Man, you always say, Coach B, do the work and it works. Do the work, and Jade always says, do the work and it works. And so they want it. And the first season, they didn't even know that they wanted it, if that makes sense. They were scared of their bigness and their greatness. And now that they have a glimpse of their amazingness, they're like, bring it. We want it.
They want more of that.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're empowered.
There you go. Well, definitely check out the show. Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, again, she is going to be on season 2 of Teen Mom Family Reunion. It started January 3rd, so it's on right now. New episodes every Tuesday, and you know where, on MTV. Dr. B, I really appreciate you coming on. Great conversation. Thanks for coming on the show.
What a treat.
Thank you.
Yes. Kim, Nikki, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
just stay in the present moment, because the past is depression, the future is anxiety, and you got your present and the gift right here. So
there you go. All right, there you go. Coach B, check out Teen Mom Family Reunion. Thanks so much. Yeah. Just interesting. And I know I was reading some of the comments. Oh, it's reality TV. Look, I've been watching, like I mentioned, 16 and Pregnant since it started. And I've followed a lot of these stories. It's intense. And if you think it glamorizes, there is nothing glamorized about being a teen mom. Okay, we're going to do Kim's news. It's, of course, Friday. I'm still waiting for my food to be delivered, so hopefully it'll happen now. Tim Sika is waiting in the wings. We are going to talk movies, what to watch this weekend, because, of course, it's Friday. But here, let's take a look at some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Let's start with this story. Journalism is not a crime. I believe that with my whole heart. The White House defending the freedom of the press. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said it is part of the bedrock of American democracy. The comments come after former President Trump called for jailing the journalists who published the Supreme Court's draft opinion that eventually led to Roe v. Wade being overturned. California is storing water from all of these recent storms. The 9 of the storms drenched in the state, averaging nearly 12 inches of rain since the day after Christmas through this past Tuesday. Governor Gavin Newsom feels the move will reshape water systems for the 21st century and beyond, saying it will also protect communities from extreme cycles of wet and dry. His new budget includes more money to help cope with floods and drought. Now, California says they're storing water from all these atmospheric rivers, but we've also seen a lot wasted. And, it seems like with reservoirs filling up, just kind of dumping water so they don't reach flood stage and have these reservoirs overfilling. So it looks like we need more money to help cope with that and create more ways to store water as well. There is a convicted sexual predator who abused a group of college students. This happened in New York. This man will be spending the rest of his life behind bars. 63-year-old Larry Ray, convicted of luring the students into a sadistic sex cult and terrorizing them for nearly a decade. He's been sentenced to 60 years in prison. The federal judge called Ray an evil genius as he sat in the courtroom without expression, hearing from some of the victims recounting years of physical and mental torture. So life in prison for him. Netflix founder Reed Hastings on the way out. He is stepping down as CEO. The announcement made during the company's earnings report. Co-CEO Ted Sarandos will remain in his position. Hastings will stay on as chairman instead. And the first Saturday Night Live of 2023 will be hosted by Aubrey Plaza tomorrow. The White Lotus star will be joined by musical guest Sam Smith. Plaza telling The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon, that she bombed her SNL audition years ago before eventually being hired as an intern in the design department there from 2004 to 2005. And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, it has been Steve who has helped the people, from the small business owner to the individual. Steve has got your back when it comes to filing taxes, tax questions, business questions. He really does a lot of stuff that helps people out. 888 Tax Deal, or you can check out his website, Moskowitz. You can see it right there, MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. All right, Tim Sika's waiting in the wings, but I want to do this real quickly. Oh, here's my banner, and hopefully Steve will join us as well during the show. Okay, Kim.
Yeah.
I got it. So this is...
Oh, is this the sandwich? Okay.
This is the Italian chicken sandwich. Now, this was 2 weeks ago? I think you were telling us about this.
Yeah.
Basically, I would describe it as a chicken parm sandwich. Now, Kim does not eat fast food meat. Many of you applaud that decision.
I am not a vegetarian, but fast food meat freaks me out.
Grosses her out. Okay. Yeah. So
I know I'm weird, you guys, but that's fine.
It's not weird. I mean, I eat fast food meat and people judge me.
The whole pink slime debacle just really turned me off.
See, and it didn't do anything for me. I'm like, well, apparently I like pink slime. So there you go. All right. So I ordered it. Now, Kim did it It comes, so I'm going to open it up. I got the garlic not, you know what, let's bring Tim in this. Tim, you can give us your take on what I'm eating. Let's welcome Tim Sika, who's going to talk movies in just a minute.
Hi, ladies. How you doing?
Hi.
Good,
okay, so
good
we're gonna do our Friday food segment real quickly, and then we're gonna get to you. Okay, so my option for the sandwich was a garlic knot bun.
Okay.
Oh, that looks good.
Sounds delicious. Okay, so here it is.
Yeah.
Now it's like a chicken patty, or fried chicken, and then a fried cheese patty. It's like a mozzarella stick, but like a patty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh.
I know, right? Doesn't that sound delicious? Okay, so
does.
Kim asked for it with no chicken because she doesn't do the meat.
Right. So I just had the mozzarella cheese stick patty and the mozzarella sauce and the bread, and I mean.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this weird thing where I'm gonna pull off the. Oh, can I even? Oh yeah, I could do it because you know. Okay, so there you go. I am taking the chicken off, and I'm gonna try it Kim's way. Okay. And let's see how this. And it's still hot. I just got it delivered by DoorDash. I love eating on my show because this is just gonna be good. Okay, ready? Nom 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 nom. Wait a second. Ah, all right.
Something missing there for you, or was that pretty good?
Okay, so you know what's great about this is actually today is National Cheese Lovers Day.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
How appropriate.
This is bomb for all of you vegetarians, not vegans, because obviously it's cheese. This is really good.
Yeah, it's not bad. So if you have an aversion to fast food meat, but then you're on a road trip and there's nothing for you to order, well, that'll work.
Yeah, and isn't mozzarella cheese, isn't that supposed to be like the best kind of cheese or the healthiest cheese?
I don't know about healthy.
I think it is. No, in terms of cheese.
Tim Sika,
being healthy at all.
I'm choosing to believe you.
Sure, let's go with that, Tim. That sounds
let's
perfect.
go with that. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna try it with the chicken though and compare. Okay, ready? This is gonna be a much bigger bite from my gigantic mouth. Okay.
I love the bite sound.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sound. All right. You know what? That's a bomb sandwich either way. It really is good. I never get specialty burgers or chicken sandwiches or anything.
Right.
If you eat fast food, which I know you're not supposed to, I give it a 10 out of 10.
Really?
I mean,
wow.
Okay. So I noticed they also have not only the chicken parm sandwich, but they have a hamburger parm sandwich.
I think chicken is way better.
Yeah. Well,
I would go for the chicken parm. So
if you're going to eat fast food meat, yeah.
Why not? But yeah, it was delicious. Anybody? Okay. Oh, KF says it's made from skim milk. At least some mozzarella is. So maybe that's
maybe that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Maybe that's what you were thinking. And I'm sorry.
From Wendy's, Karen.
Yeah, it's from Wendy's. I'm sorry. I should have said that. Heart attack on a bun. Look, listen, people. If we haven't already established this already, I eat crap food. Okay, I have no shame in it. I will not apologize for it. I'll take my heart attack and my fat ass for it. I don't care. I like it.
You always eat crap food.
Well, and you're so skinny, so it doesn't, you're not no worse for the wear. Gosh.
Skinny is in the eye of the beholder, but life is too short to only eat healthy food. I try to balance it, but it's delicious and I like it.
Well, it's like, my dinner with Andre. This is my lunch with Nikki. So just
Speaking
to give it a movie theme here.
The gatherings, didn't you just get back from some hobnobbing with all the stars in Hollywood?
Yeah, you went to a screening yesterday, didn't you?
Well, I went to a screening, but on the weekend I attended the Critics' Choice Awards.
Oh, how was that?
Los Angeles. It's crazy. I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger every year. It was so big this year that it was so. It was just difficult to just sort of navigate because there were so many rooms. The main ballroom was like massive. There were more nominees than ever before. So every single star, pretty much, except maybe Tom Cruise, turned out for this thing. So
Top job, Tim.
You could be. I was hanging out I went out into the foyer to just get some air, and I'm just looking at my phone, and I look up, and who is there but Kate Blanchett waiting for her car. So of course I struck up a trivial conversation with. I mean, that was the kind of event it was. It was really kind of cool. If you were a celebrity watcher, yeah, I didn't do any of the selfies or any of that fetish stuff.
Pictures,
No.
I mean, please.
No, it's funny because when I was chatting with her, I would say maybe when 10 people realized that it was her, about 10 people came up and did selfies, and she was so obliging and so friendly. She'd go into this instant smile, you know, and then go right back to the chatting with me. It was really, really funny. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, it was cool. It was a great event. It was really nice.
All right. Well, let's get into what we should be watching this weekend. You have 4. Well, one's a documentary, I guess a movie on the list. Let's start with this one. And I got pictures to help everybody out. Let's start with Turn Every Page, The Adventures of Robert Caro and Robert Gottlieb.
Gottlieb, yeah. It's a documentary.
Okay.
And it's about the author Robert Caro, whose famous works include the Bible on power, the Bible on political power. It's called The Power Broker. It's one of Barack Obama's favorite books. He said when he read it, it totally shaped the way he viewed politics and politics equals power. And Robert Caro's other famous contribution to biographies was his famous 4-volume biography of Lyndon Johnson. And this movie, Turn Every Page, is about his relationship with his book editor, Robert Gottlieb, who is considered by all accounts the greatest book editor who's ever lived. They called him the Dumbledore of publishing. Now, this movie sounds really unsexy. I mean, it really does. It sounds like, what is that? You know, but this was one of the best documentaries released last year. It officially opens today in Bay Area theaters. And it's just a fascinating study about the relationship between an author of a book and an editor of a book. And there's a kind of bittersweet aura over the entire affair because it's also about an era of publishing that sadly vanished because of the advent of the internet and how people read, you know, their books, if they even read books anymore. And I could talk for hours about this movie, about the book, The Power Broker, about Robert Moses, the New York builder, and the subject of The Power Broker, a book I am reading now as a result of seeing this movie. I actually ordered it and I started reading it, but it's like a phone book. It's so huge. I don't know if I'm ever going to finish it. But anyway, I could talk for hours about the LBJ biographies, about how this movie portrays sometimes the often contentious, but also the essential relationship between an author and his or her editor. Yeah, it covers so much, this movie, and it's really my favorite movie of the week. And if you have a chance, if you had to just choose one movie, it would be this, Turn Every Page, in my opinion.
Turn Every Page, okay.
You don't have to be like, it's not like you have to love documentaries or you have to be an author. Like anybody would like this, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, you know, it's a great story, the way it's told here, and it juggles so many subjects that, I mean, it's just fascinating. I was surprised at how interesting and how riveting it was. It was written and directed by Robert Gottlieb's daughter, Lizzie. So, you know, there's a little bit of nepotism in it, but it's a very affectionate portrait of her dad and this relationship he has with Robert Caro, who's, you know, The Power Broker is considered like the Bible about political power. And if you want to understand how power changes all of our lives, and you know, if we understood power, we'd understand what power does to people, and if we understood what it does to people who don't have it, then you know, his conclusion is that maybe we can imagine a better world and a better future. So yeah, anyway, Turn Every Page, The Adventures of Robert Caro and Robert Gottlieb. Yeah, that's my favorite.
That's your top choice. Okay, and then is that only in theaters?
Only in theaters right now. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, the next movie is Son with Hugh Jackman, who I just watched this weekend in The Greatest Showman, which hands down is one of my favorite movies that he's in because I love that movie so much.
Oh, you like that one, huh?
Oh,
Yeah.
I love The Greatest Showman. I love that.
Well,
I love that movie.
yeah.
But what's The Son about? What's The Son about?
Well, you know, this is a domestic family drama. It's a prequel to 2020's The Father, which was about an elderly man battling dementia, and a role which won Anthony Hopkins an Academy Award for Best Actor. Yeah. Well, this is a prequel. It's written and directed by the same guy who wrote and directed The Father. His name is Florian Zeller. And like The Father, it's based on a play by Zeller, and it stars Hugh Jackman. Laura Dern is in this, Vanessa Kirby, and Zen McGrath, who plays this 17-year-old boy with suicidal tendencies and a lot of emotional problems. The plot is kind of soap opera-y, but it's mostly a story about parenting and navigating parenting when one of the adults remarries another woman. So this is the kind of movie that's usually right up my alley. Seriously intentioned drama about a seriously intentioned subject, but there's something that's off about the son.
okay.
And I haven't pinpointed exactly what's off about it. It's probably the direction and maybe a bit of the screenplay. I mean, like I said, it's obviously a well-intentioned drama that appears on the surface anyway to have its mind and heart in the right place, but it just doesn't work. It comes off as a bit weird and kind of goofy and somewhat self-conscious. I wouldn't not recommend it because there's an awful lot that's good about it. The cast, Hugh Jackman is great. Laura Dern is great. They're all
love
really good.
Hugh Jackman. It's like you say Hugh Jackman and I'm thinking I'm there, but no, huh?
Yeah. No, I mean,
And does Anthony Hopkins make as I see him on the?
Yes.
So he's
yes,
there. And there's an explanation that the father and everything.
Yeah. Well, there's a little bit of a connecting device when he appears and he has this conversation with his son. Yeah, and he's great. And all those actors are always worth watching. But everybody on the film seems to be acting against what may just be a kind of wrong-headed approach by the director. That's the only thing I could figure out because I'm going, why is this movie just not working? It doesn't make any sense. Everything about it is really interesting, and it's just it didn't work for. I don't know. I was just baffled by it.
Okay. So kind of maybe if it's on streaming, then I might check it out. But
yeah, and if you're a Hugh Jackman completist, of course you have.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, now this one, when you finish saving the world, Julianne Moore, I adore.
Oh God! If you adore her, you will adore her forevermore after you see her in this movie.
Oh,
I mean,
so you liked it?
I guess you'd classify this. Well, yeah, I did. I actually did. I keep misnaming this movie, Nikki. I think the email I sent you said something different, but the correct title of this movie is When You Finish Saving the World. I think I wrote When You've Finished Saving the World. Anyway, and I guess you'd classify it as a kind of like a satiric coming-of-age comedy drama, mostly about a mother and a son, played by the sublime Julianne Moore, and Finn Wolfhard plays her son. The mother runs a shelter for battered women, and the son, much to the mother's endless consternation, the son's focus is on singing and writing songs, which he live streams for pennies. And she just thinks he's wasting his life. But anyway, this is actor Jesse Eisenberg's directorial debut.
Oh, okay.
He's an amazing actor. He's probably best known for playing Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network, right? But he directs here and he also writes. And the screenplay's based on this audio drama he also wrote and starred in 2020, I think, during the pandemic. It was an Audible original radio drama, which he did plan to adapt for the screen. And this movie is what that radio drama has wrought. And I found the film irritatingly enjoyable, irritatingly entertaining. The characters are so annoying, but their annoying personalities are kind of offset by the satire and the humor. Parenthood is kind of satirized here. Familial dysfunction is satirized, privilege, the woke culture. And we have these characters who are trying to save the world, but, whose personal lives are in a mess. Right. So it's like, okay, why don't you? So that it's just irritating, and the humor's a little cringy. Julianne Moore, who is so wonderful here, her character is really annoying and condescending and sarcastic, and some of her reactions to her son and his behaviors are just, you go, God, lady, you need to go to parenting school. But the ending of the movie, which I will never reveal here, makes the entire movie worthwhile, and that's all I want to say about that. But the other thing I found interesting is that as an actor, Jesse Eisenberg has this style. He talks really fast, like me, in this staccato rhythm, and so do all the people in this movie, which I found kind of amusing because it turned out to be a movie as a directorial debut that you would expect from an actor like him. But I liked it. I enjoyed it. And of course, Julianne Moore is. Really, she's just super.
She's phenomenal. I just love her.
Worth seeing just for her. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now, is this a scary movie, Tim? It's called Missing.
I kind of want to see this one.
Well, this one's the big studio release of the week, and it's a sequel to, I think it's a sequel to 2018's Searching, which was a movie. Yeah, well, that was set entirely on computer screens and smartphones. It starred John Cho. He played this father trying to find his missing 16-year-old daughter. She just goes missing one day. So he uses the internet to try to find her. And this one, Missing, kind of ups the ante in terms of its use of smartphones and computer screens to tell its story of this teenager who tries to find her missing mother after she disappears on vacation in Colombia with her new boyfriend. So, and when I said ups the ante, I meant that this story too, only more so, is told through internet visuals, internet tools, texts, FaceTimes, screens within screens.
Really interesting.
So, and yeah. And it's a good movie. It's a good thriller. It's more tense and suspenseful than scary. It's very involving. It's also, like I said, a movie overflowing with like internet clicks and FaceTime visuals and texting. And the main character is an 18-year-old millennial. You know, the millennials grew up only knowing computers and smartphones and knowing how to efficiently use them. Well, watching all of this got exhausting for me. I'm thinking, man, there's so much about my smartphone that I don't even know how to use, let alone know about. But yeah, but the story unfolds and the movie's all put together kind of creatively to tell a very kind of like a cliched story and plot. You know, a person goes missing without a clue, and then they're frantically being searched for. But it tells that story in a fresh and different way. And it also goes to surprising places. Yeah, there's some twists and turns that I went, whoa. And I like these kind of movies which toy with my expectations, you know, where what we think is going on is not what necessarily turns out to be what's really going on. And it also makes me think I should be using Siri more as a tool. Anyway,
Siri sucks, by the way. I don't
log
like
everything in your life, right?
She never,
does exactly. Yeah, but it you know, it plays a crucial role in this story. But it's a standalone sequel too. You needn't see searching to totally enjoy it. So yeah, it's a good entertainment. Yeah.
All right, well, that's Tim Sika.
Yeah, those are the movies for the week.
Turn every page, The Sun, When You Finish Saving the World, and Missing. Those are the movies. Tim, we will talk again next Friday. Have a great weekend, friend.
Yeah, you too, Mickey. Thanks. We'll talk to you.
Bye.
Then.
Thanks for being here.
Bye, Tim. And waiting in the wings is our very good friend and exclusive founding sponsor, Steve Moskowitz. Steve, thank you for the kind notes while I was out of town, even though I was able to dip in on the show. You've been a great friend to the show as our founding sponsor. I want to start off with a question for you that somebody had actually emailed me. And I didn't know the answer to it, or I would have answered.
Yeah, let's see if I do.
Okay, so it's not about everything that you do, because we always talk about how you help people with ERC. Obviously, you're a tax attorney if you need a tax attorney for that. Accounting, HR. Are you a financial advisor, though?
So the answer is it depends what you're talking about, because a lot of times the tax and the financial are mixed. So what I would say is if somebody has that situation, I would say, go ahead and contact us. And if we don't do it, we'll refer you, because we work with a lot of people too. You know, it's like other type of cases. If you're involved in certain things, even if we don't handle it or handle all of it, we have colleagues and we refer to them.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so let's get into
just like doctors do.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, I don't do the ear, nose, and throat. I'm a heart doctor, but I know somebody.
Exactly.
Okay, so talk about what people are calling you about right now. Is there kind of a season for different things during certain times of the year? Or is it always tax season?
It's always tax season for us, but something comes up now is during the traditional tax filing time, there's a lot of people that have a dirty little secret and they think they're the only one. They haven't filed a tax return in years. And the reason they haven't filed it in years is because they didn't have the money to pay the first one, and they still don't. They're over their heads, deer in a headlight. They don't know what to do, and they're really afraid. And I've seen people ruin their lives and their families' lives and businesses and marriages, and it doesn't have to be. If you haven't filed a return for 1 year or many years, even if you owe a ton of money and you have no idea how you're going to pay it, that's okay. We'll do everything for you. We'll go to the government, feds and state. We'll file what needs to be filed. We'll make a deal on what you owe. And there's all kinds of deals, whether you just pay part or pay in monthly installments, or they forgive the penalties or leave you alone until you're back on your feet and get your new job or your business turned around. Or maybe you have a spouse or a kid that's sick, turn it around. and then we go for it. In almost all cases, we can do everything for the person. They don't have to talk to the government, deal with them, have anything to do with them, and then they can have a normal life.
I love that. I absolutely love that, because that's kind of the crux for a lot of people is instead of picking up the phone and calling Steve Moskowitz, they're just going to sit up all night long and worrying about it. When a simple phone call with some answers, you can tell people what you were worried about isn't even that big of a deal.
You know, Nikki, that happens all the time. People say to me, Steve, have you ever done a case like this before? And the answer is usually yes, literally thousands of times. We know what to do, how to do it, the whole works. And so many times people are terrified that something horrible is going to happen to them. And you know what? It's not. It's kind of like you have a chest pain and you are just terrified that something's wrong with your heart. And you don't go to the doctor, and you don't go to the doctor, and you don't go to the doctor. And finally you go to the doctor and you say, well, yeah, I know I'm having a heart attack. He says, no, you're not. You know those burritos you eat?
It's agita. Like, just you're fine.
Agita.
Yeah. Just
I
stop
know
eating the burrito. Well, give Steve a call. He'll get rid of your agita, your tax agita, your HR agita, your accounting agita, whatever it is. Give him a call, because then you can sleep better at night. You don't have to worry about it so much.
And no agita.
No agita. Well, at least unless you're eating the burrito still. 888 tax deal, MoskowitzLLP.com. That's 888 tax deal. Or MoskowitzLLP.com. We love you, Steve. Thank you so much for everything.
Thanks, guys.
All right, bye. Yeah, give him a call. I swear to God, don't stay up late worrying about crap like that.
So I know we're at the end of the show, but there's a couple stories that I didn't tell you about, but I just want to make sure you know about.
Okay, lay it on me, woman.
First of all, there's a freeze warning in effect till tomorrow morning for much of the Bay Area.
Fabulous.
And if anyone's planning to go to the coast today, dangerous coastal conditions this weekend. So be super careful. Also, and I mentioned this on Mark's show, but I don't know if you heard that the police chief of Oakland is on paid administrative leave.
I heard a tease, and then I didn't read. I got distracted. What happened?
So LeRon Armstrong, who we've interviewed before, who we know to be a decent fella, he's accused of not taking action on a sergeant who ripped the bumper off a neighbor's car in an accident and apparently later fired a gun in an elevator at the police department. These details coming out in a report blaming the department for how it handled both cases. They think that Mayor Armstrong closed the investigation too early on this one.
What would have been his? I mean, why are they thinking he did that? Was he friends with the person? I mean, is there any motive for doing that?
This is under investigation. That's why he's on paid administrative leave until they shake it out. Mayor Sheng Tao, that sounds weird to say,
I know, right?
says the decision wasn't taken lightly, adding that we must have transparency and accountability to move forward as a safer, stronger city.
Good.
So
I mean,
wanted to make sure you know that.
Yeah. Is that it? Oh, okay.
No, one more, because,
Okay.
and I did this yesterday, but you weren't here for it. Speaking of the mayor of Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf yesterday announced that she is the interim executive director for Empower.
Empower. Why does that sound familiar to
So
me?
Empower is an organization that trains women to become leaders in the Democratic Party and politics.
Ooh,
So it's
perfect
all
for
about
her.
like, and she's an alum of this from 2009.
Yeah, I think I remember that I read an article about that or something.
So she's teaching or spearheading this year, 2023's Empower Northern California, or maybe California, all of California. I'm not sure, but that is what she is doing. So I know you've been keeping tabs on her, and I wanted to tell you that.
I love Libby Schaaf, and that's awesome. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. She's
Yeah.
obviously been, a real rising star, I would say, within the Democratic Party for years.
Right.
And so I think that's just going to slide right in with her kind of wheelhouse of talent. Okay, so that is the show. I want everyone to have a fabulous, fabulous weekend. Thank you, Mo, for reminding us. Yes, it is Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year. Is it Sunday? It's
Sunday.
It's Sunday. Okay, I'm making sure that I got my dates right. So
got it.
be safe. That just means it's going to be a late night for me on Sunday because it goes off in my neighborhood, and I love it.
Fireworks, yeah.
Oh yeah, the entire street is covered in tiny red papers, from the fireworks or the firecrackers. So it's going to be a good time. But be safe, everybody, and just keep that in mind. Go Niners! I was this close, if we didn't have so many interviews today, of wearing my onesie 49er pajama because I wore it last night. So
Can I dork out for a second?
Yeah.
The firework noise, pew pew. or gun noise, whatever, if you type that into your iPhone, do you know what happens?
Does it make the sound?
See that? If the whole screen lights up like a lightsaber.
Oh, that's
there's
kind of cool.
lasers going on, all kinds of stuff happening.
Oh, look, you sent it to me. Pew pew. Let's see. Oh, it's replay with lasers. See, this is how they get you to buy their crap phone.
Isn't that awesome?
I'm not paying another $200 for the next phone. Just go pew pew on my thing, but that's a nice little feature. Very good. All right, let me say thank you once again to people that donated. Andreas has been so very generous.
Thank you.
Our prayers and our thoughts go out to your mother, who apparently is on the mend, so that's great news, but please keep us posted. He donated $20 and then $50 and then another $20. We love you, Andreas. CR with $10 donation. Thank you. Dora came in with a $20 super sticker.
Thank you, Dora.
Harry donated $20 as well. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you,
and of
Harry.
course, Jim Slayton starting us off.
Go
$5
Niners, Jim.
and a Go Niners. So absolutely love you all. They better freaking win, or somebody is going to be very unhappy when I'm here on Monday. Because if we lose, all right, we're not going to lose. I love it. All right, talk to you guys on Monday.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. Miss Brown, like a beautiful blossom. You're all so the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.